You're listening to Range Minded from Independence Indoor Shooting. This is episode 83, where we talk with Joey Harris, a guy who's been in the firearms industry for quite a long time. He's got a huge wealth of knowledge, and he's someone you can find at the shop every single Saturday morning. This is a great conversation about silencers, ARs, all kinds of stuff. So thanks for listening, and we hope you enjoy episode 83 of Range Minded, the Joey Harris interview. Hello and welcome to Range Minded from Independence Indoor Shooting. My name is Mark Long, and I am joined by...
As normal, Steve Zimmerman.
And not just you.
Oh, yeah, we have a special guest tonight.
We have a super special guest. Who is our special guest?
Who is our special guest?
Hey, I'm Joey with Bootleg. And cheers, everyone.
Yeah, it's a
So when this is recorded, we actually recorded this Sunday night, which normally we don't record on a Sunday night. But Joey so graciously accepted our invitation. And I told him since he accepted, he could have a scotch and a cigar on us. So that's exactly what he's doing.
He's enjoying the good life. That's what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
So
he looks like a very confident man enjoying his evening.
That's right. And I live a stress-free life these days. So,
so Joey, you've got a rich history of firearms affiliations. You are affiliated with Independence Indoor Shooting a little bit, right?
Yep. I still work at Independence on Saturdays. That range is the cleanest range I have been on of the 35, 38 plus ranges I've been on around the country. That Independence is the cleanest, nicest range I've ever been on, and that includes Smith & Wesson's facility, which is, it's an older facility, but it's Independence has the cleanest range, the only 100-yard range I've ever shot on, and it's 15 minutes from my house. So I see myself working there on Saturdays for some time.
As long as you can, right?
Which is fine, because we enjoy having you because your wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
It's no secret, like Mark was saying, you have a heritage in the industry, and that knowledge that you've accumulated over the years is very helpful.
Yeah, and if I can, I'm one of those guys. I still get calls from Smith & Wesson guys that, hey, Joey, I don't remember what you said in that class 2 years ago, but how do I do this? And I still answer their calls. And they know that, I'm the kind of guy that I answer people's questions. It might cost them a scotch or a cigar at SHOT Show one of these years, but they know I'll answer their questions. So that's how I am.
That's awesome. Because there's a lot of folks that if they've severed ties with a company, that's it, no more. They won't talk to them.
Wash their hands. I'm done with it.
I think that's a little tough to do in the gun industry because, it's a big industry. Like, there's a lot of people involved, but then again, I feel like everybody kind of knows each other,
The gun industry, for as big as it is incredibly small.
Yeah, everybody kind of knows everybody, or somebody knows somebody who knows somebody, or you know what I mean?
Well, and then a lot of times it's, this is a new CEO of Company X who just left Company B not very long ago, who used to work for Company C.
It's
just the way it goes.
Yeah,
it's pretty crazy.
So
we all end up working everywhere.
Let's start at the beginning if we can, Joey, because I think that just seems like the most natural place to start. How did you get involved in the firearms world, and how'd you get your start?
So, I'm a welder by trade, and I used to build experimental airplanes back in the late 80s, early 90s.
Really?
And that led me to becoming a plastic welder, which I welded plastic for 7 years, built clean room equipment for Intel and Motorola. And then when that industry crashed at the beginning of the 2000s, I got laid off. I made it through 5 layoffs because I was a metal welder.
Well, that's impressive.
Yeah. But I got laid off, and that took me out to the maximum security prison in Idaho. I worked out there for almost 5 years, and then got my hands into NRA instructing. I became an instructor for the rifle, the pistol, the shotgun, and my last year the submachine gun.
Oh.
I still have that qualification card where I got qualified on a Colt 634 9mm submachine gun.
Wow.
Awesome.
And that was the only time I held an SMG weapons qual. So I kept that card. But that got me some NRA instruction. I love being an instructor. I taught at the academy. I taught the other instructors. I taught the team guys that were out there. And that got me into the firearms business. When I left there, because of a medical reason, I couldn't continue doing the job instead of just being, dead weight for everyone else. I just left and found something else.
Sure.
And that led me to Impact Guns, the other range in town.
Oh, yeah.
I ended up working for them off and on like 8 different times. And I worked for them full time for 3 years. And during that time, they opened up a training range down in Utah. It used to be called the Swanson Tactical Training Center. And I went down there.
In Ogden? Was that where that was at?
In North Ogden, yes.
Okay.
Right off the freeway. And I ended up living down there for 14 months and then ended up meeting a bunch of people in the industry, went to my first SHOT Show.
He's enjoying his cigar, by the way. Well, that's where the pauses come from.
I got to keep it burning. Sorry, guys.
No, you're good.
So I went to my first SHOT Show in 2008, and as a buyer, and just green around the gills, just running from one end of that place to the other, and ended up meeting the guys from Gym Tech. But just because I was a buyer and we carried their stuff, it wasn't until I came back to Boise that I ran into Dr. Phil Dater. So we call him our Dr. Phil. He's not the Dr. Phil of the Oprah Winfrey Network, but he's our Dr. Phil. And
if people know the suppressor world, they should probably know who he is.
Well, let's spoil that a little bit.
He's kind of the grandfather of modern silencers. Anyway, I ended up meeting him working at the retail store up here in Boise, and we ended up talking for probably an hour or so. And next thing you know, I meet one of the other owners. His name is Kel. And he invited me to lunch, and apparently I passed lunch, and I ended up working for Gym Tech for almost 10 years.
Wow.
And I did sales. I ended up running the tech department at Gym Tech, and went through all the changes of one owner to another owner. But when I started, I believe I was number 6. I was the 6th employee at the Eagle office. So learned a ton of stuff about suppressors and weapons.
Right.
And I'm not military. I tried to be in the Navy a long time ago, and my medical problems took me out of the Navy. But, when I was at Gym Tech, they would encourage me, as long as I fed them myself, to take home different machine guns, different silencers, and see how they worked, see how they sounded, so that I could then talk about them better.
What a tough job.
Right? Yeah. And I took home stuff every weekend, to the point where my teenage boys at home got tired of shooting the MP5 submachine gun.
Wow, what a tough
How's that
life.
even possible?
Seriously.
Yeah. Oh, it's just the MP5. So yeah, no, we've got the new Battlefield. We're gonna stay here and just play our game, So, but short of a minigun, I've shot a lot of stuff.
Yeah, man.
I haven't shot a minigun. I've shot a bunch of the Russian belt feds, the American belt feds, and then most of that suppressed. So yeah, just a interesting background. And I worked for Gym Tech for close to 10 years. Ended up at Maxim Defense for a year and a half. They build that little short PDX, which I'm still going to buy myself, because that thing
that's cool.
18.5 inches long, and it fits in a backpack.
It's a fantastic gun.
What's not to like about that? And then my current position, I've known the bootleg folks for a long time, and they needed some help in the sales department. So I came over, and now I work for Bootleg Inc. And it's just bootleginc.com and Joey at bootleginc.com for an email.
There you go.
We have all kinds of AR accessories, and probably the coolest thing that we have is that suppressed bolt carrier, or the adjustable bolt carrier.
Yeah, the adjustable bolt carrier group, yeah.
Just for shooting suppressed.
4-position, right? Is that
4-position adjustable carrier? It bleeds all the gas off that you get in your face, shoots it out the ejection port, keeps your gun cleaner.
Man.
So what's not to like about that?
That's what never ceases to amaze me about the gun world and the firearms world, is that there's always innovation. There's always people that are, trying new things out. I mean, the AR platform is, arguably 50, 60 years old now at this point, and people are still finding small but significant ways to improve upon it, make it better and make it more versatile. You know what I mean? Because back in the day, people maybe didn't think that the general population would want to shoot suppressed or whatever, and now silencers and suppressors are getting more and more popular every year.
Well, I think it's not that they're getting more and more popular. I think they're coming back into popularity, because that used to be the thing back in the 20s. It was uncouth,
right?
Then now it's just expensive and a pain in the butt to get them.
Well, because in the 20s you could still buy them without having to deal with any kind of NFA tax, right?
Correct.
Right. NFA started in 1934, and it's been $200 since 1934. It's the only U.S. tax that's never gone up.
That's crazy.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. But in other countries, you buy a silencer when you come to that country to go hunting, because it's the proper thing to do. I mean, we wear earplugs when we shoot, or we wear earmuffs when we shoot, because the guns are so loud. We have to have a muffler on our car. How come we don't have to have a muffler on our gun?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because in England and in Australia, even, I think silencers are regularly able to be purchased by the population.
Not in Australia, but New Zealand.
New Zealand. I'm sorry, that's what it was. Yeah, you can just go in and buy one off the shelf. There's no paperwork to be done outside of a normal firearms purchase, etc.
It's an accessory. That's all it is.
And the inventor of the silencer is Harold Maxim Jr., who is also the inventor of the car muffler.
Really?
He made them at the same time.
Did not know that. That's crazy.
You have to have on your vehicle, and the other one you have to pay a tax to be able to own as a privilege.
Crazy, man. Yeah. Very crazy.
Crazy stuff.
It's pretty awesome that they can regulate a right, but not regulate a privilege.
Right.
Can you tell us a little bit, Joey, about why maybe how silencers ended up on the NFA list and not just an accessory that you can pick up?
Well, obviously, I'm not old enough to be around for that when that happened.
Right.
But in the 1930s, you got to think back to, the Prohibition days, were post-World War I days, and we have gangsters, running around, with Tommy guns, the Thompson submachine gun, and I believe it was the FBI. They came up with this National Firearms Act of 1934, and they wanted it to be a big enough felony that they could arrest somebody for tax evasion, get
the mobsters. Get the mobsters.
You see a guy with a Thompson machine gun, then, at that point, they knew how many of them were registered, because, they had to go through that process, and a criminal isn't going to follow the law. So, they could arrest somebody on site with a Thompson machine gun. And then this is also during the Great Depression, and they were worried about people poaching with silencers.
Okay.
To feed their family. So the National Firearms Act almost had handguns on it, but they knew they wouldn't be able to get the handguns out of people's hands. So instead, they put silencers on there, almost an afterthought, if you will.
Really?
But we've never been able to get them off of there. The fast forward, to most recently, like 5 or 6 years ago, we started hearing grumblings of the Hearing Protection Act, and up until the Vegas shooting, that actually had some legs. In
fact, if I remember right, it was going to hit the House floor the next day after the shooting. That's when it was slated to hit the floor. And then once that shooting took place.
Within a week.
Was it a week?
Yeah.
Yeah. Man.
And then that shooting happened. Hillary Clinton uttered the word silencer, and 3 days later, Paul Ryan pulled it from vote. So it never made it out of committee. It never made it to the House floor to be voted on in the first place, and it's been dead ever since.
Yeah.
And now we have, we don't have
we have a minority.
Right. We don't have the majority anymore, and so now it's probably never going to happen.
At least not for 6 years.
At least not for a while. Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, it's too bad. It's the only really regulated right that we have right now. Well, that's just not true. We have lots of regulated.
Yeah, we have lots of regulated rights, but
but silencers.
But
we
can't be trusted.
It's that interesting thing because I think there's a lot of misconceptions about silencers, and I'm sure we've talked about it before on the podcast where. You see in the movies where somebody has a silencer, even like back to the James Bond days, the early James Bond days, where it's like no louder than a cough, or it's completely silent, nobody would hear it, and that couldn't actually be further from the truth.
Correct. And you got to think about this. Hollywood, they don't have to obey the laws of physics like the rest of the world does.
Right. That's exactly right.
So, I mean, in all reality, silencers, they still make noise. I mean, they're only lowering the gunshot sound by between 20 and like 35 decibels-ish.
Sure.
So if you've got something that's 160 or 170 decibels and you lower it below the 140, so for people that don't know, 140 decibels is the point where OSHA says that it's going to hurt your ears. And somewhere within a few points of that is where your ears will start to ring with the gunshot sound.
Right.
And so most modern silencers, we call them, do the air quotes, hearing safe. But yes, they're hearing safe, but they're only hearing safe because they get just below that 140 decibels. Well, a jackhammer, a rock concert, a jet engine noise.
Even a jet airplane.
Those are all equal. Yeah, those are all equal sounds to a firearm silencer being fired.
And if you want to get really geeky, if you want to talk about OSHA, they'll start talking about time-weighted average and exposure level. The time that you can be exposed to a noise, and it still exceeds that. So,
well, during like for a shop, anything above like 85 decibels. For longer than like 4 hours, you're required to wear earplugs. So a welder in a shop running a grinder all day, if he's above 85 decibels for longer than 4 hours, then OSHA says that that's a sustained noise that you need to wear ear pro. But when you talk about a gunshot sound, a gunshot happens in microseconds.
And it's so loud.
In minutes.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen in minutes. It doesn't happen in hours. It happens in microseconds.
Not a sustained noise, yeah.
Correct. I just had this conversation with a guy recently about he was doing sound measurements with his iPhone. He's got an iPhone app, and he was getting really good numbers. Well, it's because he's missing the peak of the gunshot sound. To measure a gunshot,
it's not collecting it.
Right. It's not a sustained sound. So most microphones don't have enough rise time to actually measure that sound effectively.
Interesting.
And so your iPhone sound meter sure, it's going to meter some sound, but it's going to not catch the peak. It's going to catch it when it's falling off and starting to mellow out. It's going to catch it like right there. You have to have a 20 microsecond or faster microphone, or your sound meter is missing most of what you're trying to collect.
Noise.
Yeah, and most commercial grade or iPhone style microphones aren't going to catch anything that fast. You need something kind of specialized in order to catch the sound that fast.
You need something specialized, and they're typically $6,000, $7,000, $10,000. And not something you can just buy at your local Lowe's or Home Depot.
Right.
Yeah, and I've seen suppressor companies doing some dB testing before, and their equipment's not cheap. You can tell when they start bringing in the Pelican cases that something's expensive.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm no professor of the science of it. We should get Doc Dater on here one of these days, and
that would be awesome.
He can talk to you until we're all blue in the face about measuring sound. But that's the gist of it, is that a gunshot sound is still loud, and there's a whole ton of silencers out on the market today that you still have to wear hearing protection with.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But it's a silencer. Why do I still have to wear earplugs? Because it doesn't bring the sound of the firearm you're intending to suppress or to silence. It's not bringing that sound down below that 140 OSHA standard for ringing your ears.
Okay.
And if you shoot without the Ear Pro, with that particular setup, and you're over 140 decibels, you're going to get irreparable hearing damage.
Yeah.
It doesn't each and every shot.
That's a good point, that it's not just temporary hearing loss, it's actually permanent hearing damage. Yeah.
We have, in all of our modern medicine, we have no way to reverse hearing loss, hearing damage.
Yeah, and what I think it is, and you can probably correct me if I'm wrong, but basically how hearing works is you have like little scintilla or like hairs, basically, for lack of a better term, in your ears. And that's what picks up and resonates, with different frequencies or whatever. And if you, lose, or if you hear something that's super loud at that certain frequency or whatever, you're going to lose those hairs, those scintilla or whatever, those nerves are going to die off. And there's, like you said, there's no way to get that hearing back.
There's no way to grow those back. Once they're gone, they're gone. And like me right now, I mean, I spent 10 years in the silencer industry, but every single day I have a ringing in my ears.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll wake up in the middle of the night and my ears will be ringing for no reason.
Well, if that's not a testament to, silencers not being silent, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about, because I think one of the other things that people, you see it on YouTube a lot or whatever, is that the difference between subsonic and supersonic, ammunition, does the velocity of the ammunition make a difference in noise and effectiveness of silencers?
It sure does.
Keep it glowing. Keep it glowing.
There we go.
Let me keep this guy going. So the speed of sound, roughly in the United States, is 1,119 feet a second. That is roughly the speed of sound until you get to, pretty much from sea level to like 20,000 feet of elevation. That is roughly the speed of sound. Now, on either side of that, you have transonic speed, which is just approaching the speed of sound or going over it.
Okay.
So, as a rule of thumb, anything under 1,100 feet a second is considered subsonic. And anything that's going faster than that is supersonic. So, the way a silencer works is it's like the muffler of your car. All that hot, turbulent gas behind the bullet, when the primer touches off and it ignites all that powder in the case and propels the bullet down the barrel, all that hot, turbulent gas is where a silencer takes that gas, bleeds it off of the back of the bullet, and makes the gas go through a series of chambers like the muffler of your car.
Right.
The bullet's long gone, And several seconds later, the gas is finally coming out of the suppressor at that point. I mean, it happens faster than that, but I mean, even up to a couple seconds later, the gas from that shot is still exiting the silencer.
Yeah,
so all we've done is take the.
I was going to say usually those baffles or chambers are designed in a certain way to
make the air travel
trap that gas.
To make the air travel farther than the bullet has to. So as the bullet goes through each chamber, or blast chamber to regular chambers of the silencer, the air diverts through a series of jets and basically makes the air slow down because it has to travel further. And then it just trickles out of the silencer after the bullet's long gone. Now, where it comes into play as far as the subsonic or supersonic that we were just talking about is if you're shooting let's say a 5.56, it's a supersonic round. It's going 3,000 feet a second.
Right.
3,000 feet a second is well over the speed of sound. So at the gun, at the shooter's ear, most modern silencers will bring it down to that hearing safe level to where you don't sustain instantaneous hearing damage. Mm-hmm. But what does still happen is the bullet, when it gets out from the barrel and out of the silencer, it travels approximately 8 to 15 to 20 feet, and then it starts making a crack. And I don't know if you guys are probably old enough to remember the sonic booms that the jet fighter would do. Yeah.
Yeah.
You just hear this crack and it echoes through the valley. Well, that's something reaching the speed of sound. Well, right. A gunshot, a bullet that's traveling 3,000 feet a second is going to break that speed of sound. It's going to make a crack. So even the best silencer in the world, let's say we had a silencer that did 50 decibels of reduction.
Right.
On a 5.56, which is unheard of. Most 5.56 silencers are 30 to 35-ish.
Yeah.
Well, let's say we had one that magically did 50 decibels of reduction. The bullet is still going to crack the sound barrier.
It's still breaking the sound barrier.
It's still going to make a whole metric butt ton of noise when it breaks that sound barrier.
That's an official measurement, by the way.
Metric butt ton. That is an official measurement. Yeah. Now let's go to the opposite end of that spectrum. Let me keep my cigar burning here.
Yeah,
I'm
please.
a little long-winded.
By all means. If you ever also need to learn how to live the good life, just ask Joey. He knows.
Yeah. The opposite end of the spectrum, let's talk about like 22 long rifle. That is a great example to do a side-by-side comparison. Your mini mags, your stingers, those are all going 12 to 1,400 feet a second.
Right.
Your standard velocity for CCI is 1,075 feet per second. And 22 subsonics are typically 1050 to 1020. And then they've even got some like stupid quiet rounds. I think they're
Calibris.
Well, yeah, those, and then CCI quiet.
Oh.
They're only going like 750 feet per second.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow, yeah.
720 feet per second. So if you take and you mix those rounds in a magazine and shoot them through a silencer, the 22 that is the Stinger or the mini mag, anything that's going above 1,100 feet a second is going to crack in front of the shooter once it leaves the barrel. You go below that to standard velocity or to subsonic rounds, and you okay? Somebody knocking on your door?
No, I heard the noise. I had to check it out.
That's situational awareness right there.
Yeah. So if you go to subsonic rounds or standard velocity rounds, those don't break the sound barrier when they leave the gun. So those are typically a lot quieter to shoot, and that's where you can shoot, or you can train new shooters with a 22 suppressed and shoot standard velocity target ammo. And you can have this same conversation that we're having without Steve wearing his headphones like he's wearing.
Right.
So from an instructor standpoint, all your students can hear what you're saying on the line, and therefore be safer.
I was going to say, that's a safety thing.
If nobody can hear what you're saying, everybody's wearing earmuffs, and you're yelling ceasefire because there was an issue that they may not know about. If they can't hear you, they're going to keep shooting.
Right.
So it's beneficial for training shooters how to shoot, to use standard velocity 22s because they sound the best.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I wanted to bring up was that I think there's a lot of people that don't get that ammo choice is really a big thing, not only in, well, I guess in every part of in firearms, because if you're shooting suppressed or whatever, your ammo choice and the velocity of the ammo that you're choosing to use is really going to make a difference when it comes to your shooting experience. And you bring up a really good point with new shooters or whatever. We've talked about on the podcast before about having making the shooting sports more accessible to more people. I think a lot of people are scared of the noise and the explosion and the recoil. I think are like the big three things that people are afraid of when it comes to firearms. And if you handing somebody a suppressed 22 with standard velocity ammo does the firearms community a couple of services. One, it shows that okay, guns don't have to be loud and scary. You can still shoot a firearm, but you can have a conversation, like you said, the conversation that we're having right now, we can have no problem, and you can clearly communicate, instructor commands or range officer commands easily. And then number two is that you have somebody shooting a suppressor and you show them a suppressor and what they are and what they do, and that, they quiet things down, but not by that much. I think it really dispels a lot of the myths about what suppressors can and can't do. So I think you make a really, really good point there, about the type of ammo that you shoot and how that can affect your experience or taking new shooters out in their experience with shooting.
And it all boils back to we have to obey the laws of physics. There's no way you can break the speed of sound without making a sonic crack.
Right.
We, in all of our years of technological advances, have not figured out how to break the sound barrier without making noise.
Yeah.
And that happens every single time you fire a firearm.
And I don't think it's physically impossible anyways. And if people look it up, and you mentioned the sonic booms. I remember being a kid and out here in the middle of nowhere in eastern Idaho, and big passenger jets flying over, and all of a sudden you'd hear just a thud, and it just rumbles through the whole area. And I actually kind of miss it, honestly. I always thought it was cool.
I do too. So I'm a big plane nut, and I just recently found out that the SR-71s, when they took off from Area 51 or from Pasadena, California, they would fly to Idaho, and Idaho, Gowan Field, and Mountain Home used to have the KC-135 refuelers.
They'd refuel over high altitude.
So they'd refuel over Idaho. So as we were growing up, those sonic booms were likely the SR-71.
I had no idea.
Just hit the gas station over Idaho, and now he's taking off for wherever in the world he's going.
Man, that's wild.
Pretty damn cool. But that is freaking cool. But you think about that time or that point of when a bullet's breaking the sound, but that's a very turbulent life of the bullet, whether it's going subsonic or transonic or whatever. That is turbulent, and it's. I don't think it's possible to make that or keep that noise from happening. I don't think it's possible. No matter what. It's not
possible. And then also, it happens as the bullet is traveling. Mm-hmm. So you don't hear that sonic boom until the bullet passes you. So if you had a guy standing every 50 yards for 1,000 yards, and you shot next to them, every single guy would hear a sonic boom until a sonic crack of that bullet passing them until the bullet dropped below the speed of sound and ran out of energy.
Right. Yeah, it's just plain physics. You can't really get around that, like you said.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter what they say in the media. Doesn't matter what they say on the news or what the politicians think they know. It's the laws of physics. We can't change the laws of physics.
Yeah,
a silencer is still loud as all get out.
That was one of the things that it didn't irk me, but I was like, come on. In John Wick, I think it was, I can't remember if it was the second or the third one, where they're like the two, like John Wick and the other guy are walking in this like long white hallway in a crowd of people.
It's the second one.
Yeah, that's right. And I'm like, oh, come on. Like, this is BS. Like, I mean, it's fun to imagine, but this is not doing anybody any service here at all.
Yeah. Yeah, and then while we're on that point of silencer or suppressor, it's both the same thing.
Yeah, they're interchangeable.
The ATF calls them silencers. They call them suppressors, and in the NFA handbook, which is a pretty good read if you're ever a gun guy and want to just read what the rules are.
Sure.
The NFA handbook, you can download it right off of ATF's website. They even refer to them as firearms mufflers.
Really?
Because that's how they started life. They started life right in the same shop that the automobile mufflers were made.
And that verbiage probably hasn't changed since the 30s.
Nope,
in their book.
not since 1934.
Yeah, there'd be no reason to change it, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, even they don't want to tackle it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, that's the gist of silencers, and I was fortunate enough to learn from Kel, and there's a guy at the American Suppressor Association with everybody should join. His name's Owen Miller. He and Kel trained me at Gym Tech, and taught me everything that I know now. Him and Dr. Dater, and it was a time in my life that if I had to do it all over again, I would do it just like I did it.
That's cool.
To learn what I know now. And I don't even know, I'm not even a very smart guy when it comes to this kind of stuff. I just happen to be in the right place at the right time.
Right.
And, I'm super forgetful, and that stuff just sticks in this crazy brain of mine. So,
well, I'm glad you're here, because we've talked about doing a silencer or suppressor episode for probably a year or more. And
since the inception, I think, of the podcast.
Yeah, and we kind of we every time it's come up, we've kind of looked at each other and be like, we don't know enough about silencers, and we can read about it, but that doesn't mean we will understand it, and so we might as well just defer to an expert. So you're the closest thing to an expert that we have.
I hope you don't mind.
No, I don't mind. And each time you guys have asked me in the past, it wasn't my role to be able to come on and talk about this.
Sure.
I was under contract to not be that guy. We had a marketing guy, and it wasn't me.
Right.
So,
right.
I'm happy to come on.
I'm actually super excited to have time to have you come on, because, like I said, it's been a long time in the making, and now we have the opportunity to have you here without any roadblocks.
You had me at cigars and whiskey.
There we go. So, well, let's
give me cigars and whiskey, and I'll keep going.
Let's switch gears a little bit over to Maxim, because I think there's been a couple times where we've talked about the Maxim, the PDX and everything, and obviously they got their start with the buffers and the buffer tubes and the short
brace
and the pistol brace.
The pistol braces and everything. But really, with that PDX, I think that company's turned a corner into a lot of innovation with the hate brake and just, the whole PDX platform takes the AR platform, I think, to a whole nother level.
Well, it really does, and it really, it was really hard for me to leave Maxim. Because they have such a good product line. They're going to have silencers. We launched them at SHOT Show last year.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they would have been commercially available now, but the military decided that they wanted suppressed belt feds, and that kind of diverted Maxim's attention away from the commercial market for the time being.
Sure.
But they're going to come out with a civilian line of silencers, and they're going to be just like the military ones. Just there's different parameters. Sustained belt-fed fire, that silencer has to be made differently than something I'm going to put on the front of a PDX or the front of a standard AR-15. So, but I mean, great company. I love the PDX. The tightest group I ever shot out of that little 5.5-inch barrel was 3/4 of an inch.
Yeah, man,
at
that was
100 yards.
That's the craziest
so
part
silly.
to me is not only how accurate that
100
gun was.
yards, 100 yards, 3/4 of an inch, 5.5-inch barrel.
barrel.
Those things are never in the same conversation.
Yeah, that's insane.
So the 300 Blackout's going to be coming here pretty soon.
Ooh, there you go.
And they were just finishing up development on that. My last day was actually last Friday. A week ago this last Friday. It's a great company. They got a lot of cool stuff coming.
I had a chance to hang out. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to. Sorry. I was going to say I had a chance to chat with those guys at SHOT Show. And a lot of them, I mean, they're our mutual friends. Like we have mutual friends that work for that company and people that you know better than I know. And those guys are a great group of guys.
So a lot of guys so there's no more Gem Tech. It's all Smith & Wesson now.
Right.
And so all the guys that were here in Idaho for Gem Tech, a lot of them went to work for Maxim. So it was like a Maxim, refugee camp, if you will.
I think Maxim just saw the opportunity and said, hell yeah, we'll hire you. That's what I think happened.
Yeah. I mean, a little bit of that, and we all need a job, so
that helps. Yeah,
it was a win-win for both sides.
Yeah. So, it was very, very mutual beneficial. And I remember talking to I can't remember the owner's name, but he came into the shop and we talked for a while. He's a super cool guy.
Yeah. So, and then my year and a half there as the national sales director. I met a lot of cool people. It just continued my firearms knowledge. If you'd have told me 15 years ago that a 5.5-inch barrel would print a 3/4 of an inch group at 100 yards, I'd have told you were on crack, and I would have bet against that. But the little PDX, it is just a coolest little weapon system. It's smaller than an MP5, but shoots rifle rounds.
Yeah,
crazy,
it's super crazy.
It is crazy.
Well, and that's
I need to get me one is what I need to do, but
yeah. The only thing I'll say, Joey, is that they are pricey, but I mean, you do get what you pay for.
You do, and it's very purpose built.
Right.
There's nothing on that gun that it's not there for a reason. Yeah. The barrels are a hand-selected barrel. The gas block is a special gas block. You can't buy that gas block anywhere else. And nobody else has that gas block.
Right. I mean, even the brace and the hate brake and everything. And I mean, when you took me out of the range to shoot that PDX once, and I go, well, got to tuck this thing in tight. He goes, there's not going to be much recoil on that thing at all. I go, are you sure? He goes, here, shoot, pop 5-10 rounds off, and find. It was like nothing. It was like a 22 because of the way that muzzle brake really directs all that energy.
Well, on the way that hate brake was designed. I mean, little guns like that, they got a lot of hate. I mean, 5.5-inch, 5.56.
That's a fireball waiting to happen.
Fireball. It should have a fireball the size of of one of the fancy big screen TVs now. That thing should just be huge. But that hate brake, and the reason that it is what it is, a bunch of silencer guys. That little gun needed back pressure to cycle. A bunch of silencer guys, we know what causes back pressure. Silencers cause back pressure, They jack with how your gun's going to cycle.
Yep.
So we tuned that PDX to run just like it does with a silencer with the hate brake. The hate brake mimics the blast chamber of a silencer without being technically, quote unquote, technically a silencer.
Still falls within the ATF okayness.
Yeah, it falls under the ATF okayness because it's off of that. I don't know how old the patent is, but the Crinkoff design muzzle device.
Oh, yeah.
That patent was approved and is not technically, by ATF definition, a silencer.
Right.
A silencer doesn't, to be a silencer in ATF size, it doesn't have to be a silencer. If it meets the physical parameters of a silencer, it doesn't matter if it's a loudener and makes the gun even louder than what it is. If it meets the physical parameters that ATF has set for silencers, then it's still a silencer, regardless of how loud it is.
Right.
That's
So,
so dope.
the hate brake was made under that Crink patent that was approved, decades ago, and it mimics the blast chamber of a silencer. But more importantly, when you're setting up an AR like the PDX, you can tune it, gas port, buffer weight, everything comes into play. You can tune it to run equally as well with something that's going to give you the same back pressure as a silencer. And that's what the hate brake does.
Yeah, and the result
That's
of it
awesome.
is very impressive. So you really got to shoot on yourself to try it out, and see for yourself.
Yeah.
So
And the flash signature on that 5.5-inch 5.56 barrel with the hate brake installed, the firearms blog, they actually caught some high-speed video at SHOT Show this last year, 2019, and the flash signature is about the size of a can of soda.
That is
Wow.
ridiculous.
5.56,
That's crazy.
5.5-inch barrel, and that flash signature should be lighting your eyebrows on fire.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. It's the size of a can of soda.
man,
That amazes me.
Yeah. It still amazes me. And, I used to have two of them sitting here at the house.
Yeah.
It's crazy what it does.
so the Maxim PDX, you got to check it out if you haven't yet. Just even check it out online, videos of it. You're going to be impressed no matter what. But let's talk about Bootleg right now, because that's, like you said, where you're at right now, and you guys got a lot of cool stuff going on at Bootleg, right?
Yeah. Let me get sat down here real quick.
Yeah.
I'm sure my cigar went out again.
Oh man,
So give me just a second.
tough life. But yeah, Bootleg is it's based here in Idaho, right?
Yeah, Bootleg is based here in Boise.
Yeah.
Oh, look, it's still glowing.
There we
It's
go.
still glowing.
Yeah, buddy.
It's like sucks starting a Harley, but it's all right.
Yeah. So Bootleg started out a few years ago as a subsidiary of PWS and Primary Weapon Systems here in Boise.
Another great company.
Yeah. They build great piston guns. I think I've owned like 6 of them over the course of the last 10 or 12 years.
Oh man.
Great piston guns. And Bootleg split off and became like a sister company, and then now it's a standalone company. And they used to build the Gemtech suppressed bolt carrier.
Oh, okay.
Well, they have their own carrier, which is a 4-position adjustable carrier. And the last 2 years I was at Gemtech, I actually used one of the Bootleg carriers in my personal guns because it worked better.
Uh-huh.
The Gemtech carrier that Bootleg made for Gemtech was just an on or off. So it was unsuppressed, or when you put your silencer on there, it's suppressed.
That was it.
And just had a gas setting that it would do on or off. And the Bootleg carrier took that a little further, and it has a 4-position carrier or 4-position setting on the gas valve, and it basically bleeds off the overpressure through the ejection port while the gun is cycling. So in that little bit of dwell time as the bolt unlocks, so if you picture the way a direct impingement AR works, that the bullet goes down the barrel. The gas, before the bullet leaves the barrel, goes up into the gas tube and comes back, and then starts into the carrier. And as that starts into the carrier, it goes down through the carrier key, hits the gas rings,
Right.
and then that's what starts the bolt to unlock on the AR platform. And at that point, the carrier starts to move to the rear, and in a normal AR setting, all that gas that's coming through that gas tube bleeds right into the action of the AR.
Uh-huh.
And when you run a silencer, you add pressure to that system. So anybody who's ever shot a silencer, they realize that your gun, I mean, you shoot 10 rounds, you might as well shoot 100 rounds because your gun's going to be just as dirty.
Yeah, and it's gassing off in your face so bad.
It's gassing off in your face and making your gun dirtier. So basically, where the gun has to eat, the gun eats off the magazine. Basically, it's putting all that waste right on top of the next round that's going to go into the chamber.
Yeah, because as that bolt's moving back, it's just taking a dump right on the magazine.
Right. As soon as that carrier moves back a little bit, then the carrier key comes off of the gas tube that comes into the action, and all that extra gas bleeds right on top of your next round that is now dirty and has to go into your chamber. So what the bootleg carrier does is it takes care of that extra gas and that extra pressure. And it has 4 positions between unsuppressed, it's got 2 settings, and then suppressed like the Gemtech carrier. And so it works for a suppressed AR, or, all the kids are building, I call them kids. Everybody's building these little short barrel pistols now because you can shoulder a pistol brace.
Right.
And you can have a short barrel without doing the SBR tax stamp. So everybody's building these little chopped down AR-15s that are, 5, 6, 7, 11, 10, 14-inch barrels. And the further you chop that system away from a 16-inch barrel or the original 20-inch barrel, the more you chop that system, the more you interrupt how that gun has to cycle.
Yep.
And so what the bootleg carrier does is take care of that So whether the gun is suppressed or just a short barrel and it's so overgassed it won't cycle, it bleeds off that high pressure out the ejection port and 30 degrees forward from the shooter, if you're a left-handed shooter, bleeds at 30 degrees forward and keeps the gun cleaner, gets that high pressure gas out the ejection port, so you can take a 7-inch gun away from your face, but you can take a 7-inch gun and instead of going up in buffer weight, you can run a standard or an H buffer. Nice. And have it cycle appropriately with perfect 3 o'clock ejection just by tuning your carrier. So that was their claim to fame, and you can get those on bootleginc.com. That was the real knock it out of the park product that Bootleg came up with.
That's crazy.
And since then we have an enhanced carrier. We have an enhanced upper receiver, which is just your normal AR-15 upper receiver that's been beefed up where it needs to be beefed up and then lightened where it can be lightened. And our upper receiver is only 6 ounces because we've skeletonized it a little bit in material thickness, but not in durability. We lose the forward assist, which, you guys are AR shooters. How often do you have to use a forward assist?
Not very
once
often.
Every other
unless your gun is filthy.
Yeah, unless your gun is filthy, exactly. But we're not going over a beach. We're not halo jumping out of a plane somewhere.
Right.
It's for us a forward assist is not necessary.
Right.
And that's going to save you on weight and components and things that could
save you on weight and components. It saves you 2 to 3 ounces over a standard upper receiver.
Right.
We do a bunch of different hand guards, whether they're the key mod or the M-lock type. We have a new hand guard called the Cam Lock hand guard. And it literally, I don't know if you guys saw my video that we just did a week ago. I built a whole 10.5-inch upper in about 4 minutes.
Holy cow.
Because not key mod,
Cam lock.
Using my cam lock. I'm losing my terminology all swimming around my head here. The cam lock handguard, there's no timing of the barrel nut. So you just torque the barrel nut down to the 35 foot-pounds of torque with the included tool, and then the cam lock handguard just lines up all over the barrel nut, slide it over the barrel, lines up on the barrel nut. You align the top receiver or the top of the
rails,
receiver, the top of the rail, and just snap it shut. It's a quick mount. Because it's M-LOK, and I don't know if you guys have ever used M-LOK before.
Oh yeah.
But it takes, a third hand and a set of long needle nose pliers to keep that little nut from spinning around on the inside.
Right.
Well, now with the cam lock handguard, if you want to put something on your barrel, you just slide the handguard off and attach your attachment, because now you can get to the inside because the barrel's not in the way. And then just slide it back on, and it returns right back to where you were at, so your front sight holds 0.
Nice.
So, is this? Do you guys have? Are you guys going to show the video of this, or is it just going to be the verbal?
Just audio.
Just the audio. But we can link that. We can link that video on our Facebook feed too.
Yeah. If you go to Bootleg's YouTube video, I just did a 4-minute video building an upper from scratch, and the way we had to do it for the camera angles, it doesn't look. I mean, I had to do it at a funny angle to get the camera angle on it, but I built a whole upper in 4 minutes flat.
Wow, that's wild.
Super simple. And that's a 10.5-inch upper that I screwed a Trek to, a little Gemtech Trek, and I haven't zeroed it yet, but it shot great. And
that's awesome.
And it's flat. You can build a whole upper.
Man.
Using all bootleg parts. So in that video, I used a bootleg gas block. I used a bootleg gas tube, the bootleg carrier, the bootleg charging handle, the bootleg upper, the bootleg barrel, and the bootleg cam lock handguard.
In 4 minutes.
So start to finish, all bootleg in 4 minutes and some change. And I had a working upper.
That's wild.
Just literally that simple.
That's cool.
That is wild, man. So it would behoove you to check out Bootleg. And where can people find you online again?
Bootleginc.com.
Easy.
You can go to YouTube and search Bootleg Inc. And we've only got a few videos on YouTube, but we're going to be doing some more.
Yeah.
And we've got a video on the 4-position adjustable carrier coming out.
Awesome.
That's going to be on that YouTube channel as well.
Great.
We're big on Instagram and Facebook, just bootleginc.com for the website, and then Bootleg Inc. for Facebook or Instagram. We've got a guy who his whole job is to monitor Facebook and Instagram. So if you have any questions, you can message us there, or you can email me, Joey at Bootleg Inc. Joey at bootleginc.com.
There we go.
It's a direct email address.
Awesome.
Any questions anybody ever has on the bootleg product, I'm there to answer your questions. And if you've got something that you're stuck and you're trying to build it and you can't quite get it to go together, just call me. I can walk you through it. It takes just a few extra minutes on the phone, and that's the kind of hands-on customer service that we do.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and if you're not convinced that Joey is a huge wealth of knowledge about basically almost everything and anything firearms by now, I don't know what to tell you.
The experience.
Yeah.
He has an aura of experience.
Yeah.
I'm just a guy who's happy to help. So
and you know what's awesome? Like I know a lot of experienced individuals, and a lot of them are just plain straight up assholes, and they think they're God's gift to the community.
I can be an asshole too. I mean, I learned some stuff in prison.
That's what I like is
I can be an asshole when I need to be an asshole, but you know what? You guys are nice, and I don't have to be an asshole.
Well, and you got whiskey and a cigar, so you can't be mad then.
Right.
But it's not very often that you have somebody that's got that kind of knowledge. that's just willing to help. Like, it's usually, oh, you don't know how to do it? Well, sorry, I'm not going to tell you type of stuff.
Yeah,
But
that's true.
It's refreshing to have somebody that'll help.
You know what? And I thank God that He put me in all those places, just the right time, just the right place to get the experience that I have. And, I'm happy to help, because when I was learning all this, I had to write everything down. I had to start a cheat sheet of thread pitches. I mean, you name a weapon system, I can just about tell you the thread pitch just off of memory.
Wow.
Because I had to learn all that, I'd stop in the middle of a phone call, at Gym Tech, because I thought I was a gun guy until I got a job answering the gun guy phones, I was like, I know my way around a firearm, I can do this, I can do that.
Yeah,
and then somebody's like, hey, I've got a Ruger Mini 14. What's the thread pitch? I want to put a silencer on it.
Oh, God.
What? And I'd stop in the middle of the phone call. Hey, Owen, what's the thread pitch on a Mini 14 again? Oh, 9/16 by 1 right hand? Okay, cool. Thanks, man.
And there it is.
So I wrote all that down. So I have a threading cheat sheet that I started, 12, 13 years ago.
Yeah.
Of all the different thread pitches for all the different weapon systems.
Anything you
so
can
now
imagine.
I got it pretty good. Anybody who's trying to tune their AR-15, another thing that's really helpful is if you Google an AR ejection chart. That is probably one of the coolest pieces of material you'll ever search. If you're new to ARs and you're trying to tune your AR, but it's doing this or it's doing that, it'll tell you by where your ejection goes.
Really?
So perfect ejection, I alluded to it a little earlier. Perfect ejection is 3 o'clock ejection. So if you think about a rifle, the flash hider is 12 o'clock, the butt stock is 6 o'clock. So perfect 3 o'clock ejection is 90 degrees out the right, or if you're a stag shooter, 90 degrees out the left. But 90 degrees out the right between 3 o'clock and 4:30 is perfect ejection. If that's where your AR is ejecting, don't change anything. If it's going behind 4:30, then you're undergassed and you need to go down in buffer weight. If it's going forward of 3 o'clock, then it's overgassed and you need to go up in buffer weight. And some of the symptoms of being overgassed is closing on an empty chamber. Hey, my AR is a single shot. I shoot a round and it won't pick up the next round off the magazine. It just closes on an empty chamber. Well, it's because your carrier speed is going so stinking fast that it's outrunning the magazine spring. So the magazine spring isn't strong enough to get the next round in the way for the carrier to pick it up when it's closing. You're overgassed. So the bootleg adjustable carrier in one of those unsuppressed to the next slot, the next position, and then the next position, those two middle positions, if you have something that's closing on an empty chamber when it should be a semi-auto, but it's a fancy single shot, drop in that adjustable carrier, go to the first setting off of unsuppressed, and that's going to bleed off that extra high pressure, and it's going to allow your gun to cycle normal. And you'll have that 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock ejection, which is perfect.
And it's just a nice option to have if you ever get a can or you already have some set up.
Yeah, if you ever get a can, flip it over to suppressed and start shooting to your heart's content.
Yeah, you don't have to mess around with adjusting everything else. You just basically flip the selector or the switch, and that's it.
Yeah, and the good thing about the adjustable carrier from Bootleg over the old Gym Tech carriers, one is 4 positions, but 2, you can adjust it right through the ejection port.
Oh wow!
So you don't have to pull it. You don't have to pull it.
Yeah, you don't have to pull it all apart. You drop this carrier in, you shoot around. Oh, that didn't work. So you click it over one shot, you chamber another round, you shoot around, and it just quite doesn't work. You click it over one more setting, and you can adjust it right through the ejection port while you're right there on the shooting bench.
That's crazy.
That's awesome.
You don't have to disassemble everything, in the middle of your shooting. You just take a small flathead screwdriver with you, and you can adjust it right through the ejection port.
That's wild.
Nice.
Super handy.
That's where AR technology is nowadays, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's shift
happy times.
Let's shift gears over to the last part. Steve, if you're ready.
Oh, yeah.
I think you know
we
what I'm
we
talking
didn't tell
about.
Joey about this part.
Uh-oh. What do you got? Am I going to duck out of here, or am I okay? Or what?
No, you're good. I hope you're good. So normally what we do with guests is so a while ago we decided, hey, let's get to know our guests a little bit more. So we came up with 5 questions.
Uh-oh.
And these 5 questions are just, the intent is to just to get to know, in this case, Joey a little bit better about who Joey is. Just kind of personalize it, stepping outside of the industry concept of it all. So,
is there anything outside of cigars and whiskey that?
Well, I love that you're lighting your cigar with a torch.
Yeah. Is there any other way?
I have no idea.
That's the Joey.
But anyway,
right there.
this should be good. And look, he's giggling while he's trying to start his house on fire.
He's living the good life.
Oh yeah.
This would almost be worth if we could at least share some of this video. This would be great. Anyway, so it's just 5 questions. You answer them however you like. And like I say, it's just kind of a get to know you a little better segment. Okay. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Lay it on me, baby.
Okay, the first question is, what experience in your life has been the most influential and why?
The most influential. It's got to be meeting you, Steve. It's been an inspiration in my life, and I appreciate everything that you've taught me. And you taught me how to shave my head right, and
it looks good.
grow the Gucci beard, and
look at that.
I appreciate that. So the most influential in my life would have to be becoming friends with Dr. Phil. As the new guy at Gym Tech, I learned more than that guy has ever forgot. I learned more than what I was worthy of learning. He doesn't like TSA, so he likes to drive to Phoenix or to the shows in Phoenix and SHOT Show in Vegas. And anytime I could, I would volunteer to drive with him, because it's a 9-hour drive.
Yeah, that's a hike.
I would just ask him questions, and I would just shut up and listen. And I learned more from those drives across the desert at who knows, what the hour a day is. But the most influential thing in my life as a firearms enthusiast was having Dr. Phil become a good friend of mine, and me a good friend to him. I still take him to lunch every month or so. And I have learned more from that guy than probably any other single person. Kel and Owen at Gym Tech, when I first started out, they took me under their wing, and I learned a ton of stuff from those 3 guys. And those 3 things are probably the most influential to my firearms knowledge that I have today.
Awesome.
Very cool.
See, that wasn't so bad, was it?
No, that wasn't all right.
That's not over yet, so we're keep going. So
I know. Yeah, hit me with number 2.
Okay, so you just won the lottery. It's a huge amount of money. Okay, just a ton of cash. What are you going to do with the winnings?
What I would do with the winnings, of course, like anybody else, I would call my financial advisor. He would be my first phone call, and of course, pay off my bills. Set my kids up so that they don't have to go through the, working 2 and 3 jobs like I've had to go through. Set up my immediate family, not including you, Steve. But I would set up my immediate family so that that my kids can live a better life. And from there, let's say it's an excess amount of cash.
Yeah.
Some of the veterans organizations that take care of our wounded vets and our all of our vets. We have 22 suicides I think it's 1 or 2 suicides a day.
Yeah.
You know, take care of these vets that have gone through and have bled for our freedoms. You know, I would probably take the residual cash and I would donate to every single pro-veteran organization that I could find. One right here in Idaho is the Wyakin Foundation. You know, they take Idaho veterans and they take care of them. And they have a mentoring program where they, you know, help each other out. You know, I would probably start with there. And I'm a simple guy, you know, once I get my place, you know, out in the middle of nowhere, you know, a little ranch somewhere, you know, anything outside of that, I would probably, you know, try to pay back to the people that have bled for the freedoms, you know, for us to have this call right now. So
awesome.
That would be right there at the top of my list, after paying off my own bills, of course.
Great answer.
That is a good answer. Okay, man. What's your biggest fear?
Oh, my biggest fear. My biggest fear is going blind. That is by far my biggest fear, is going blind. I don't know that I could live through that. That is my biggest fear. So that's it.
Cool.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 4. What would you say is your biggest achievement?
I'd say my biggest achievement is making it to where I am now without pissing off every single person I know. I have been incredibly blessed in my life, thank God. I'm a God-fearing person, so I'm only where I'm at today because of him. So I'd say my biggest achievement is my openness to help everyone else. I'll answer anybody's question if they call me. You know, there's no call that I won't take, you know, and so I guess my biggest achievement is to get to that point in my life where I can be helpful to other people to help them learn what I've learned.
That's awesome.
Great
I agree with
again.
that comment too.
Yeah.
All right. So this is the last question. I always preface this question with every guest that I talk to. I know how I would answer this question. And it's actually really interesting how all of our guests have answered this question, because we've never really had the same answer out of any guest, honestly, that I can think of. Okay. So no pressure, right? There's no pressure.
No pressure.
All right. So who would you consider is your greatest hero and why?
My greatest hero would have to be our American soldiers. I'm a big fan of the military and all the jobs that those people do. God bless them all. I wish them all Godspeed. But my biggest hero is all of those nameless faces that are in combat zones, you know, fighting for our freedoms. You know, all of the heroes that are formed every single day on the battlefront, you know, so that we can have this call. Those are my heroes, you know, the first responders, the cops that go through day in and day out, you know, doing the job that they do. I'd have to say the military, the cops, and the first responders are my biggest heroes, because that's what allows me to sit on my patio, you know, right now, having a cigar, talking to you guys, drinking a whiskey. It's only because those heroes are on the job right now, helping provide our freedoms that we have today.
Nice.
So those are my biggest heroes.
Love it, love it, love it.
Right on.
Every single time I watch, you know, different movies that are based on actual events, you know, they get to different parts of the movies, and I'll start crying like a schoolgirl, because those people knew that they were going to die to go help their brothers in arms that were stranded. And so so with that, my biggest heroes are military and first responders. But my biggest regret is that I couldn't do my part in the military myself. A medical injury took me out of the military and precluded me from going back on a waiver because I tried. But my biggest heroes and my biggest regret are the U.S. soldiers and the peacekeepers and first responders in the U.S. And my biggest regret is that I couldn't do more for my country while I was young enough and fit enough, not a fat old guy like I am now. But so that'd have to be my answer for that.
I like it.
I think that's the perfect answer to that question. I think it's a perfect way to end this episode of Range Minded, huh?
Are we all over already?
Yeah, unless you
started.
What else you want to talk about?
I don't know.
Well, we're approaching an hour and 15, so you're one of the longest episodes we've had so far.
Wow.
What do you want?
Star went out like 4 times.
Yeah. What do you want to talk about, Joey? I got all night.
I don't know. I'm happy to be on. I appreciate you guys having me on, and it's been a long time coming. And maybe we'll go into something different on the next episode.
Oh, yeah. For sure. We'll definitely have you on again, man. It's been fantastic.
Anytime you want to be on, like if you feel like you have a topic that you want to talk about, dude, anytime. Like honestly,
yeah,
it's an open invitation.
Yeah, and anybody watching this, really, to give a shout out to my current employer, bootleginc.com. Anybody who wants to email me, joey@bootleginc.com, I am happy to answer anybody's questions. I'm happy to be in a position where I can answer people's questions, and if they have suppressor questions, they have gym tech. I still answer gym tech questions. Dealers that still have my phone number from when I was a gym tech sales guy or tech guy, they know that I'll answer their questions. So anybody wants to shoot me an email, shoot me an email and I'll answer it.
The other day when I was over there teaching, and a mutual friend of ours was having trouble with cans that they were on some demo guns, and and it was just, I was like, man, talk to Joey. He knows what's going on.
You should have called me.
You were there. You were standing right next to him. He was. You know who I'm talking about.
Yes, I do. And you know what? I answered his question, and it fixed his problem.
There you go.
It did. He changed ammo to a different ammo. He was shooting too light a bullet in that particular setup, and so he switched to a heavier bullet. That Hornady Black 75 grain and the Hornady Black 62 grain, that stuff is just the best ammo I've ever shot. And he switched to that stuff. It fixed his problem. And
he had a big demo coming up, and he was freaking out that his gun wasn't going to.
They're in Florida right now. They're in Florida right now doing that demo, and I told him what ammo to use, and he used it. He shot it on the range at Independence, and that fixed his issue.
And he slept well that night.
Yeah. And so anybody who's local, independence.com, iishooting.com. Yep. But come down to Independence. I'm there on Saturday mornings. Come down and talk, ask me questions, whatever. Anything that I bring with me for the day, you can shoot it as long as you feed it. Maybe if you're lucky, you'll even get to meet Matilda.
Oh, I have met Matilda.
You know who Matilda is.
Yeah, that is an amazing piece of history.
Yeah, Matilda is a little short Benelli M4 14-inch shotgun that shoots like you're shooting a 410. It's just the most pleasant shotgun I've ever had to shoot. I named her Matilda after Leon the Professional. Natalie Portman's first role was as Matilda in that. And so I named my shotgun after Matilda because she's little but deadly.
I thought you named it after the song, the Waltzing Matilda, the Australian folk song.
No, it's from Leon the Professional.
Not about stealing sheep or anything like that.
Man,
that's funny.
There you go.
I forgot that Natalie Portman played in The Professional.
Yeah, sure did. She was like 14 at the time.
One of my favorite movies. Yeah,
that is a great movie.
I think she was younger than 14. I think she was.
She looked like 12.
Yeah, she was little.
Yeah, very, very young. So,
for you guys can share any part of this video. I don't care. You guys can show my personal side, my whiskey side. I don't care.
Love it.
You guys share it all.
Cool. Well,
I'm a happy guy.
Thank you, Joey, very much. And if you want to get a hold of Joey, like you said, stop by Independence Indoor Shooting Saturday mornings, or Joey at bootleginc.com, or send us an email too, podcast@iishooting.com, or Facebook and Instagram at Range Minded Podcast, and we'll connect you with Joey for no charge.
That's
Sounds
right.
good.
So, well, thank you, Joey. We'll talk to you next time. Thank you for listening.
All right. Thanks, fellas.
Thanks for listening to Range Minded. Find us online at Range Minded Podcast on Facebook, or send us an email at podcast@iishooting.com. We're always happy to get feedback, episode suggestions, whatever you want to send us, really. And be sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and pretty much wherever else you get your podcasts from. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.